talking about the books that I read in November. Whew, din ako din kablano, gala. So it's pretty much the same gist. Disclaimers, these are all my own opinions, don't take it personally. And second, there might be spoilers, so
Bitch disgusting.
Hi, this is editing. Hi, this is editing Trish, and I will be inserting a lot of these into my videos because apparently drunk Trish was too wasted to articulate any of her thoughts properly. So I'll be adding some more stuff into the conversation.
the first book that I read in October, no, the first book that I read in November. Hindi na ako malungkot sa ano ko nagbasa. First book that I read in November was The Au Pair by Emma Rose. It wasn't a good book. Basically, it follows two timelines and two main characters. The first is Seraphine, who is an heiress to a rich family fortune, and she starts investigating about her family's past after her dad dies under mysterious circumstances, and her mom's past is basically this big family secret that nobody ever plans to share with her. The second perspective is Laura, who is the au pair for said family years past. The premise is actually a really good mystery story. Unfortunately, the characters aren't the kind of people that I would root for. I think there are times when I read a book and my personal experiences in life influence how I relate with the characters or how I experience a book, and this is one of those instances because Seraphine is she's a spoiled brat. She's a spoiled brat. At first, I empathized with her need to find closure in regards with her mother, because when she and her twin brother was born, her mother threw herself off a cliff, and so there's this big motherless gap in her life that she's trying to fill. My big problem is that the catalyst that eventually drove her to look for answers wasn't her dad's death or any other more significant thing. It was the fact that her grandmother wouldn't give her the house that she wanted. This is a rich family. Seraphine was assured that even if she wasn't getting the family house that she wanted, she would be given enough money to buy her own house and live comfortably for the rest of her life. But she throws a tantrum because she didn't get the house that she wants, and this just reminds me of that episode from 16 and Super Sweet 16, where she didn't get the right color of a car, and this is just a kind of first world problems that I cannot empathize with. Laura was a main character that I could relate. She came from a poor family. She had to work hard to actually survive and thrive. So there was that. Although she did some questionable things that, I don't know, the story or the book didn't really delve much into, aside from the fact that she just wanted to do those things in the spur of the moment. So there isn't really much motivation for the characters to act the way they act and to be the way they are. The story itself was really good. It was really complex, and the misdirection was really good. All I can say is that it would have been really good if only Seraphine wasn't such an insufferable brat. The next book that I read in November was The Astonishing Cholera by Emily X.R. Khan. Follows a teenage girl who just recently lost her mother and thinks that her mother is reincarnated into this bird. And so she goes on this trip to, I don't know if it's Thailand and Taiwan, and I feel bad about it, but I'm sorry. She goes to this trip to her mother's homeland, where she meets her maternal grandparents for the first time, and she learns more about her family. And it's just this really moving and touching story about family and dealing with grief. What's really fascinating about the story is that it's this magical realism story that it's very ingrained with fantastical elements, but at the same time, it doesn't sound or read as something out of this world. I really like how Emily Exarpan wrote her characters as sincerely as she could. The main protagonist, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but the main protagonist wasn't really the most. She wasn't really a ray of sunshine to follow with, and it's understandable because she has lost her mother. But yeah, there's a lot of negativity and bitterness and anger there. It's real, it's sincere, and no matter how negative she is, you can't help but root for her and just wish the best for her and just and support her to do the best she can and to achieve what she wants to achieve. The amount of time and effort to build this really touching and really sincere story surrounding family, it was all executed well. Usually I don't like when romance is added into a story like this because sometimes I think it distracts from the more important aspects of the story. But in this case, I think the romance blends in so well and it actually adds to the development of the characters into the story. And so this was just a really great book in general. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's very deserving. The third book that I read in November was Davy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is the most divisive book that I read this year. It's either you don't like it or you love it. And for my case, I ended up really liking it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And this is another case when personal experiences influenced my experience with reading the book, because when I read this, I was in a really bad place. I was in a really bad place. It was a gray area of my life. And, I'm not justifying any of the characters. Billy and Daisy and the rest of the characters, they were far from perfect. Billy and Daisy, they can be shitty people. They are shitty people. They make shitty decisions. They're selfish. They're self-absorbed. They're not good people, and they don't necessarily do the good things. But they're doing their best, and I think that's what really made me empathize and bond with them.
So I wanted to talk more about the characters in this book because clearly they're not the most likable of characters. I love Daisy Jones and the Six, but even I have to admit, I will be the first one to admit that these characters are really hard and challenging to like. If I had read this book at any other point in my life, I would have really disliked them. I guess the timing was just right for me because I was in a really rough spot in my life, and I guess I sort of empathized with how they were struggling. But even then, I could acknowledge and am acknowledging that, Daisy Jones and the others are at times really, really shitty people. In Daisy's part, especially when, she had the audacity to get mad at Billy because he wouldn't cheat on Camilla with her. That's how I read it. Like, the guy's trying to be a faithful husband. You can't fault him for that. Of all these characters, my favorite, hands down, was Camilla Dunn. She was one of the reasons that I kept on reading this book, because despite how much I liked it, these characters are stressful. Especially following two main protagonists who are, honestly, they're selfish and impulsive and reckless, and it can be hard to like them. It can be easy to empathize, but really hard to like them. I remember this one scene about Billy changing a lot of the composition that the band made. I could feel the blood draining from my face because I was so mad at him. But at the same time, I was still rooting for him, for all of them. I think this is a testimony to how well Taylor Jenkins Reid writes her characters. They can be complex, and they can be messy, and they can be really unlikable, but you still find yourself rooting for them and, to a point, understanding them.
And it also helps that Taylor Jenkins Reid is a very masterful writer. She has this ability to really transport you to when and where she wants you to be. And the whole experience of reading this book, it just felt authentic and real. So yeah, Daisy Jones and the Six, it's not an easy book to read, and it has characters that aren't easy to empathize with. But I guess I was just in the right mindset to really bond with those characters. So there's that. And the last book that I read for November was Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. It's basically a mystery within a mystery. In one part of the book, it follows Susan, who is an editor for this publishing company, working with this author, and then finds out that his manuscript isn't complete, but then this author dies, and so strange things start happening. The other part of the book is the manuscript itself, where there's a mystery which sort of reflects what's happening in real life with Susan and the others. So it's pretty clear that this fictional manuscript is connected with what happened to this author. So it's up to Susan to find out what's going on. What I really liked about this book was that from the get-go, it's hinted that the author, fictionally and in reality, like Anthony Horowitz himself, was greatly inspired by Agatha Christie, and it is reflected in this book. I've read Agatha Christie's work, and there's this distinct formula where you can tell that, yeah, he got that from Agatha Christie, and it was present there. And the fascinating thing about this book is that it's divided into two perspectives, where you read the manuscript as Susan, so you're really reading two mysteries in one book. While you're reading the manuscript, the fictional manuscript itself, it's like a real Agatha Christie book. The amount of research and the dedication to actually embody the spirit of Agatha Christie's work, it was so on point. I actually really wanted a real Atticus Bond series to exist because it was that good. Unfortunately, I think the fictional manuscript in this case was more interesting than the actual mystery surrounding Susan. Susan is an admirable character, but she's not really someone that I got to know and empathize to the point that I wanted to support her. So I guess that was one downside for the book, but overall it was a great homage to the mystery classic. So yeah, that was a good way to end the month.
So as I've tweeted before, clearly filming drunk wasn't the best idea, but I'm already late with my October video. I really wanted to put up this November video, and honestly, I'm not even aiming to be monetized for my videos because I'm pretty sure that I won't be making the most child-friendly or decent videos. So, my main goal is to blow up and pretend like I don't know nobody. I'm sorry.